Karla Faye Tucker was executed 14 years after her 1984 murder conviction in Texas. She was the first woman put to death in Texas since 1863 and the first executed in the United States since 1984. Due to her gender and her extensively covered conversion to Christianity, she sparked an atypical big national and worldwide movement, among which were a few foreign government officials that called for the commute of her sentence to life in prison. The youngest of three sisters, Karla Tucker was raised in Houston, Texas, where she was born. On the Gulf of Mexico, her father Larry worked as a longshoreman. When Tucker was 8 years old, she began smoking with her sisters, primarily because her parents' marriage was so dysfunctional. She found out she was the product of an adulterous affair after her parents' divorce when she was 10 years old. She indulged in drugs and sex by the time she was 12. After dropping out of school at the age of 14, she engaged in prostitution, following her rock groupie mother, Carolyn, and started touring with bands like the Eagles, Marshall Tucker Band, and Allman Brothers Band. Stephen Griffith, a handyman, was her short-term husband when she was just 16 years old. She started hanging out with motorcycle riders in her early 20s, where she met Sean Dean and her husband, Jerry Lynn Dean. In 1981, the pair brought her into contact with Daniel Ryan Garrett. Tucker, who was 21 at the time, began dating Garrett, who was 35 years old. On Monday, June 14, 1983, at around 3 in the morning, Tucker and her boyfriend Danny Garrett, along with their friends, entered Jerry Dean's house with the intention of stealing Dean's motorcycle after spending the previous weekend doing substances. A friend of theirs, James Leibrant, accompanied them to Dean's apartment building. According to Leibrant, Tucker and Garrett entered the apartment with a set of keys that Tucker claimed Sean Dean had misplaced and that Tucker had found. Leibrant then went back in search of Dean's El Camino. Tucker and Garrett went into Dean's bedroom during the break-in, and Tucker sat on him. Dean grabbed Tucker above the elbow, trying to defend himself, and Garrett stepped in. Garrett used the hammer he found on the floor to hit Dean in the back of the head multiple times. Garrett punched Dean, then left the room to take parts of his motorcycle out of the flat. Tucker stayed in the bedroom. Dean's breathing passages filled with fluid after Garrett threw him blows that left his head hanging off his neck. He started to make the gurgling noise that comes from this kind of wound. Tucker hit him with a pickaxe in an attempt to stop him from making that noise. Then Garrett came back into the room and gave Dean one last hit in the chest. Garrett left the bedroom to proceed with the task of transferring Dean's motorcycle components into his ranchero. It wasn't until she was left alone in the room once more that Tucker realized there was a woman hiding against the wall beneath the bed coverings. Earlier that afternoon, Deborah Thornton, the woman, had met Dean at a party. Tucker found Thornton and gave her a pickaxe graze to the shoulder. Tucker and Thornton started a fight, but Garrett came back and broke them up. After repeatedly striking Thornton with the pickaxe, Tucker drove the instrument deep into her heart. Later, Tucker would testify in front of others that she felt intense, multiple orgasms with every blow of the pickaxe. Dean's co-worker, who was waiting for a ride, entered the apartment the following morning and found the remains of the victim. Garrett and Tucker were taken into custody after an investigation. They were charged with the killings in September of 1983, and they went through separate trials. Tucker pled not guilty and was detained while she awaited trial. Both Dean and Thornton's murders were filed against Tucker. However, the accusation of Thornton's murder was withdrawn following her testimony against Garrett during his trial. Thornton's death was not even brought against Garrett. While it was rare for female defendants to face death penalty, Tucker and Garrett received the capital punishment in late 1984. In 1993, Garrett passed away in prison from liver disease. Tucker and her friend Pam Perillo, whose sentence was subsequently commuted to life in prison, shared a cell on death row in the Mountain View unit. 1 year prior to her sentencing, in October of 1983, Tucker converted to Christianity. She subsequently revealed that the motive for the killing was to get revenge on Dean for once leaving his leaking motorcycle in her living room and for destroying the only photo she had of her mother. Afterwards, she married Reverend Dana Lane Brown, her jail minister, and had her Christian marriage ceremony there. Appeals and retrial requests were turned down between 1984 and 1992, but on June 22nd, Tucker asked to have her life spared on the grounds that she was under the influence of substances when the murders occurred, that she would not have committed the murders if she had not taken drugs, and that she was now a changed person. Support for her pleas came from both overseas and from several prominent figures in American conservatives. Among those who filed an appeal with the state of Texas on her behalf were the World Council of Churches, Pope John Paul II, Italian Prime Minister Romano Prodi, Speaker of the House of Representatives in the United States Newt Gingrich, televangelist Pat Robertson, and Ron Carlson, the brother of Debbie Thornton, who was murdered by Tucker. She was an exemplary prisoner, according to the director of Texas Huntsville Prison, and it's conceivable that she had changed after spending 14 years on death row. She was rejected by the board on January 28, 1998. Governor George W. Bush of Texas turned down the last-ditch attempt to stop her execution only hours before it was scheduled to happen. Tucker was flown to the Huntsville unit by state authorities on February 2, 1998, after she was removed from the unit in Gatesville. Karla Faye Tucker requested a garden salad with ranch dressing, a banana, and a peach for her final meal. 5 individuals were chosen by her to see her die. Ronald Carson, Thornton's brother, who was against the execution and had been impressed by her fate after seeing Tucker on death row, and Richard, Thornton's husband, along with his 2 stepchildren. The last words she spoke were, "Yes, sir, I would like to say to all of you, the Thornton family and Jerry Dean's family, that I am so sorry. I hope God will give you peace with this." Looking at her husband, she said, "Baby, I love you." Looking at Ronald Carson, she said, "Ron, give Peggy a hug for me." She then looked at all people present, weeping and smiling. "Everybody has been so good to me. I love all of you very much. I am going to be face to face with Jesus now. Warden Baggett, thank all of you so much. You have been so good to me. I love all of you very much. I will see you all when you get there. I will wait for you." She was put to death on February 3, 1998, by lethal injection. She licked her lips, stared at the ceiling, hummed, and worshipped Jesus Christ as the lethal drugs were injected. 8 minutes after receiving the injection, at 6:45 p.m., she was declared dead. Her final resting place is Houston's Forest Park Lawndale Cemetery. A flurry of media coverage surrounded Tucker's death, with an estimated 200 reporters from across the globe stationed outside the Walls unit of the state prison system in downtown Huntsville. A few hundred opponents of the death sentence held a silent protest vigil as supporters of the death penalty engaged in heated debate with each other. Deborah Thornton's husband, Richard, had been vehemently vocal about wanting Tucker put to death. He declared, "Make no mistake, this is not Karla Faye Tucker's day," just before she was put to death. "This is Deborah Ruth Davis Thornton's day." As Tucker's injection began, he seemed to be speaking to his late wife. "Here she comes, baby doll. She's all yours. The world's a better place." Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye bye.